Yay, blinking at me. So I'm going to give you the world's greatest presentation on a black screen. Sorry, having some little bit of technical difficulties at the moment. My HDMI port decided to not behave properly. Yeah, I thought this had Thunderbolt, and I actually went out and bought a dongle last night, and it's not Thunderbolt, it's just USB-C data. But at any rate, I'm Pete Misik, and I'm here to talk to you about Pygame. Does anybody know what Pygame is? A couple of folks in the back. So Pygame is a module for Python that gives you the whole SDL library at your fingertips. It's a really ingenious little piece of software. I stumbled across it years ago. It's great for making 2D games. And what I have planned for you, and we're going to see if we can work out the technical bugs, but we're going to make a game together today. That was my whole plan to do this. And yeah, just give me 1 second to see if we can make some magic happen. Because if not, I'm afraid I'm wasting your guys' time. And my HDMI died. Do you have a spare laptop by chance? Yeah. Sorry. So is everybody enjoying their Saturday so far? Try to make this entertaining. Tap dance. Watch a 300-pound man tap dance. That'd be kind of funny. I'm not good at it. Now, this has been a great show, though. I mean, we've had some really good speakers. Really good time. Yes, sir?
Maybe you could cover some of the background of why you got into using it?
Sure. So, I stumbled across Pygame before they did the 2.0 transition. And I got into it because, me personally, I love Python. There are a lot of really cool things that I've been able to do with it. Let's see if this works. And with that, I wanted to be able to make a game. Because who doesn't want to make video games? It kind of scratches that itch from when you're a child. My road through video game creation started, I bought a book, and this was probably 2001, 2002, the big yellow book. It came with 6 discs, and they gave you the Borland C++ compiler and said, here, learn how to make a video game. You know what it taught me? That I have a 300-page paperweight. It was hard to follow. The compilation instructions were miserable. But it did kind of start teaching you the basics of collision detection. But you're doing it in C++, which to the new guy on the block, that's not the greatest in the world. Awesome, thank you. My superhero at the moment. But later down the road, I went through, started working more and more in the Python space, and said, what can we do with Python that would let me, excuse me, be able to make a game easy? Because we all like easy. And that's where I found it. And what I started making with it, the first thing I tried to make with it was a Mario clone. And to everybody in this room, I just want to let you know, your first game does not need to be Mario. Because it is hard. So, what we're going to work on today isn't Mario. It's, hey, there we go. Thank you.
You keep going, I just need the power for this.
Sure. And thank you. Okay. So I'm gonna let everybody know right now that we are not going to make Mario. Okay? Just to put it out there, what we are going to make is a nice, simple space shooter. So if everybody's got, you guys got your laptops or something to play with? Because we're going to do this together. This is interactive. Yay! So, to make this nice and easy, do you mind if I borrow just a little bit of disk space? Okay. I'll blow it away as soon as I'm done.
Do you need root?
No, not at all.
You know?
Nope. Yeah, there's nothing there. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a folder. We're going to call it Shooter. How many guys have played Galaga? Remember that game? You're the little rocket ship at the bottom, you're shooting bullets up in the air, you're trying to kill all the bad bugs. That's what we're going to do in a nice, simple format, and I'm going to try to squeeze this in about a half an hour. So, let's see what we can do. Let's see. Let's see if he's... Oh, man. Oh, he doesn't have pip either. So I didn't need him. Can you run and grab him for me real quick?
I can just hook you up here.
Okay.
Don't go digging through my...
Oh, no. That's your private stash. All right. And this needs to come out. And you actually have Thunderbolt, so we can use my dongle. Yeah, I got the same book at home. All right. Before you go,
Do you need a root prompt?
no, you got a virtual environment already going?
Just...
Yep. All right, so
we're not actually on screen here.
all right,
This is old Hog, by the way.
that is awesome.
There you go.
Sweet. Can people kind of see that? Li-
Yeah, you probably need to increase the font size.
Zoom. I'm sorry?
Down to go down. Bigger. Right there. Right.
Bigger. Window. There we go. Now that made it bigger. Okay. So, if you don't have it installed, we need a virtual environment. The VENV is the way Python lets you install packages specifically for this project that we're working on. So with Shooter, we just need a basic virtual environment. And then once you're inside there, you have access to pip, install, Pygame. Super complicated. Now for me, this is one of my fears is typing in front of people because I do it at work all the time and I mess up. So just everybody critique me, criticize me, and then believe it or not, we are there we go. We're now in our first application. And then from here, we're just going to do the basic if name. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry.
I got the source, and then got that line done, and after that.
Here, let's just back out of this. So, after you activate it, then the next thing we're going to do is the pip3 install Pygame. There we go. Nice big. Yeah, you just, at that point, we're going to create our first file. And for me, I try to break things up as much as I can. Modularity, movement, growth. So the first thing we're going to create is our app.py, and that's just your basic launcher. It's going to let you know, here's how we're going to, here's where we're going to launch from. So if _name is your main. And then just run main. But it needs to know what main is. And when you guys see the, for Python basics, you see the define main parentheses. It's your function. So whenever you run a Python file and you see an if name main, that clause is thrown in there so Python will only try to run that file once. And that makes it handy. So from the main, let's say shooter is, actually we'll just call it game. Shooter. And game run. Now, right here, we haven't created Shooter yet. That's going to be our next step. But that's going to be our game file. That's where all the business is going to happen. We're going to love life. We're going to go from there. And so this is our whole app file. And when we get done with this and we write the Shooter file real quick, you actually have a program. You guys are developing. Is that still big enough for you guys to read it?
I think it's plenty big enough.
Never, it's the first time I've heard that in my life. Appreciate it. All right. We good? Got some thumbs? So now we need our shooter file. And this is where we're going to make some magic real quick. So the first thing we need to do in here is actually import Pygame. And then we need to create our shooter class. Whenever you guys create a class in Pygame, the first thing you want to do is create the init function. And that's going to tell your Python application, hey, when you create a shooter, these are your first steps you need to do. And the first thing that we want it to do is create a window. Whoa, hi there. Bye-bye. Touch bar got a hold of me. I love it. So, here's our first use of the Pygame module. And all we're doing is saying, Pygame, make me a window that's 800 by 600. Now, we can go back and play with those numbers later. We can make them, if you want to make a very tiny window, you can do a 32 by 32. It's measured in pixels, starting at the top left corner, going to the bottom right. 800 by 600 is a classic display size for back, but the 13-inch CRTs, weren't they 800 by 600 or were they 640 by 480? Yeah, good point. Thank you. So, what we're doing here is we're going to give it a name. You can call it shooter, you can call it Galaga clone, you can call it whatever blows your hair back. And then we want the game to go. When you're creating functions in Pygame under a class, you want to include the self as a parameter. So when you call it from outside the function, like in the other file we called it shooter.run. If you didn't include the self tag, it wouldn't know that this run function is what you're wanting to call. It would just go, I don't know. And then in here, while self.running. Now, actually I hate killing apps. Well, we can do it. Let's just call the Pygame display dot update, just so we can get something going. And yeah, there we go. For now, we're just going to write this out. And let's I'm going to have a separate terminal over here. Come here. That's what we did. Okay. Now I got to open a second window, but since we're using Vim over here, having a second window over here to be able to run it and do your tweaks kind of makes life easier. So once we have this saved up, everybody, let's run Python 3 app.py. And what you're going to see is this. Now, everybody shake everybody's hand because you're now a developer. You made a functioning application. Honestly, you did. This lets you know that the application does run. It creates a Pygame window.
Command to just start it.
Python 3 space app.py. Just make sure you have your virtual environment going. But this is also going to do something that's kind of a bit cheeky in that we've also created an infinite loop. To get this to stop, you're going to have to crash the program. Because right now we didn't tell Pygame in any way, shape, or form how to disable this window. And that's when we start talking about events. So, die. Control-C on your other terminal window helps with that. So, essentially, in our run method right now, we're saying, while true, update the screen. Well, that's cool. But now we need to be able to tell it, hey, when I click on the little X button, I want you to stop working. And the way it does that is it starts looking for events. So for event in Pygame, event get. Yeah. If event type is Pygame quit, self-running is gone. And all I'm doing is saying, hey, in your event queue, if you see somebody click on this button, stop, just kill the window, we're good. So now we go back and run it again. And let me drag it over. And Mac does this, and it's wonderful, and I appreciate it. If you notice right now, on the button queue, the red button's up there. Because Pygame told Mac, there's a way for you to die. Click the X button and it goes away. So where do we go from here? Because really, we have a functioning game. It doesn't do anything. Gives you a pretty window and gives you a way to close it off. So how about we make a player? Sound like a decent idea? Let's get out of here. And so with the player, we're going to create a class for him or them. And here in our init method, we need a self, but we also, this time, want an X and a Y to kind of let us know where we're going to put him. And for now, we're just going to let's do a red square for him. So we're going to say self-image is a Pygame surface and 32 by 32. That sounds like fun. And fill. Now, when you start playing with colors are going to be in a tuple. Does anybody know what a tuple is? It's a list of numbers, right? Yep. So for us, it's going to be 3 integers. For red, green, and blue. So it's going to give us, I've done 25500 before, and that red like sears your eyeballs. It hurts. So if you turn down the colors a little bit, it turns out pretty cool. The other thing we need is a rectangle, and that's going to be get rect. All right. So one of the cool things that Pygame can do for you is if we had all the wonderful images, say we had our sprite, which is on my GitHub, but if we had our sprite up here, we could say, hey, plaster this sprite up here. And then the next function would say, we want it to do is get the rectangle of that sprite. And Pygame actually calculates that for you. It'll get the width and the height of the image that you put in there. Since we just created a surface, which is going to essentially a rectangle, and then filled it with a color, it knows that that rectangle is going to be 32 by 32 pixels. Next thing we want to do is set our X and Y where we're going to paint this rectangle on the screen. So, and then the last function we're going to do in here at the moment is we're going to draw. And it's going to take a window object. Then we're going to blast that on there. It's going to be our image and our rect. Pardon? Thank you. And caught me at, I was even telling you guys, hey, you need to do this, and I'm not doing that. Thank you for catching me. Now this is where using VI gets a little cumbersome because we're going to have to back out here in a second because we have our player. And then we're going to tell our player right now, all I want you to do is give me a 32 by 32 pixel somewhere on the display. And we'll go back over into the shooter class and be able to call our player object, and then we'll put it on the screen. Then from here, the other thing you can do is you can throw in an update, which we'll do to handle keyboard input. And then you can watch your guy run all over the screen. That's kind of fun. And this is the fun part of actually creating a game engine is you're now deep into this and you're turning all the screws that you want. It's a very small way of doing it, but we ready? All right. Now we're going to go back over to our shooter. The first thing we need to do, though, is we got to pull in the player. And then in our initialization method, we can say self-player is player.player. Now there is another way we can actually make this a little prettier. So instead of just a generic import player, we could call from player import star. You'll see that sometimes on some Python scripts. And then we would say self.player is equal to just player because we are importing all the functions from within the player class. We do. So where are we going to put this? Well, let's put it, let's say 45 on the X, and then 600, which is our screen height. Then let's pull it up 120 pixels. And then before we run our update, let's do this. To keep things simple, actually it's not simple because we created a different function for it. Let's run self-draw. And then we're going to call self-player draw, and then our window. So to keep things modular and keep things moving, all I did was I took this Pygame display update, which is the last, it'll refresh the screen for you. And then I moved it into its own draw function. Once again, modularity, keep things in neat little boxes. Because in our draw function is where, if we had more time, we could do shooting bullets, dropping enemies. And you would want to containerize that as much as you can. Oops. So let's go ahead and give this a right. Whoop. Helps when you hit escape first, tough guy. And let's see what we got. Ruh-roh. Something didn't happen. Haha. Let's do a little troubleshooting. And this is why Python's fun. Where did I mess up?
Use somebody else's laptop.
I'm also trying to program on a projector, turning my head sideways with a hand on. No. No. What caught me, believe it or not, when I did the self-draw method, look at your indentation. It's hanging outside the while loop, so that while loop would have to break before it gets down to the draw method. It's something that simple as a simple tab. Threw us off, and nothing got displayed because it never called the draw method. So we come over here and hit tab. Now we're in the draw method. And look at it. We made a red square. Everybody clap. Yay! We draw a red square on the screen. Now, we've got a few minutes. How about we make this a little more fun? Because it's a game. It's a thing. So let's go back over to the player. And we're going to create an update method. Come on. Where's the Y? So we're going to implement this in the shooter method in our game loop. So the while self.running is our game loop. And right above the draw method, we're going to implement the update method. What I asked Pygame to do for us right now is tell me what key is being pressed on the keyboard. And Pygame's listening. Then we're going to say if keys, come on, spell. Let's just do left. Then we'll say x minus equals 1. And we're going to test this real quick. It's a simple function. Go back over to our shooter class. And then self player update. And we don't need to call an actual update. There's no update for the run method because the run method is essentially running the entire time. That is your full update. So, question is, did we get interactive? Nope. Oh. Just so you, transparency and troubleshooting. Make you bigger. Let's get you bigified. So, when I tried to run it, Pygame has no attribute keys because it doesn't. What it has there we go. For you guys that have never seen it before, which probably everybody in here hasn't, documentation. Now, I typed in pygame.keys, right? But it's .key. Drop the S. So, let's go back into our player real quick and get that cleaned up. It's amazing how wonderful one character can throw you off. Let's go over here. Let's rerun it. Now, we don't have an error. The question is, are we interactive? Well, push the right button. That doesn't work. Push the left button. Up. So we need to make this. We got to move our rectangle, not the x variable. All right. Now, woo. That's undesirable. But let's see how undesirable we can make this. So, like we did with the left key, because it did move, let's say keys pygame.k_right. Let's move our rectangle to the right. And let's do up and down too. Repetition. Now, in the Pygame window, your top right corner is 0, 0. Your bottom right corner is your width and your height. So, if we want to go up, are we incrementing our y value or are we decrementing it? You're decrementing. Because you're on your race to 0. Now, there's other game engines out there. I know, what was it? libgdx for the guys that write in Python. Their 0, 0 is the bottom left. And you want to talk about, for a guy that's been working in Pygame and other game engines, try to flip your brain. It makes your math all kinds of wacky. And then Pygame.k down. Now, with these keys, you can set these to whatever blows your hair back on your keyboard. You could also set them as string variables, and within your application, you can make them user-defined. So if you wanted to say, you're going to use your arrow keys, you can say, create an enum in there, and then have a drop-down for your user if they didn't want to use arrow keys. They wanted to use WASD instead. Instead of hard-coding this into a key value, you just, there's a longer way to make it more palatable. Okay. Now, let's go back over here and let's rerun our application. And let's see what kind of fun that we created. So, push the right key. Yay, move to the right. Push up key. Yay, moved up. Left. Left is good. Down is good. Right is good. But Is that what we wanted it to do? I mean, if we were trying to play a game like this, how long before your eyeballs start crossing because you can't see where your square is anymore? Because I lost my player right about there. And there's a reason for it. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back to shooter. So the display update function is doing its job. It's just redrawing the screen at your new coordinates. But we're never telling it to erase everything on the screen and then redraw it so you kind of see an animation. So to blank out the screen, we need to call like we did with the player when we painted him red, we need to draw the screen a particular color. How about we draw the screen red, green, blue. Let's make it blue. Now when it runs the first time, all right, watch your fingers, Pete. We get this pretty blue background. Looks like the sky from Mario. Now, if we do our right, it's all cleaned up. And from here, you know, I said we're making a shooter. But really, you could use this base code right now to make a top-down game, a roguelike. You know, it's no different from here from creating a Legend of Zelda clone. Because you're seeing the top of the guy's head and he's running around the screen. But that's a little fun. But I promised you guys that we would at least try to get something to shoot. So, let's do import Pygame, bullet, and then our X and our Y. This is all going to feel very repetitive because it kind of is. Now for our width, let's set it to 4 and the height to 16. That should give us a really narrow, long bullet. And what color should we make this? Gray? I like gray. So let's set it to 20, 20, and 20. That'd be a nice dark gray. For now, we're just going to pass that, and then window blit. Now, that feels very, very canned, right? I kind of blew through that real fast because this is, it is. Actually, yeah, it went green too. I'm sorry, I got carried away. But this entity is canned, and you saw it with the player too. It's a lot of it does translate over, and when you write an enemy class, $11.15. Sorry, I'm cutting myself short. No, what we could do to kind of generify this even more is we would create an entity class. And an entity can be anything within your system. So that could be your player, it could be a bullet, it could be a bad guy, it could be a treasure chest. But for right now, we're just kind of duplicating code and kind of running through it. Now, with our bullet, we want our bullet right now to only go one way. That's up. So in our update method, which variable do you think we need to really modify? Yeah, we got to move our y value. So let's say self-rect.y, and we're going up the screen, so we're taking away. And right now we're going to set it to 1. We're hard coding a number. In a much bigger game, when you have more time and you're kind of sitting there beating on your keyboard yourself, what you could do is create a whole variable for your bullet and call it bullet speed. That way, when your player picks up a power-up, change your bullet speed. You can go from 1 to 2 to 5 to 10, whatever you want them to do. Right now, we're just going to hard code it just to get it up the screen. And we got that one saved. Next, we're going to go back to the player. We said, hey. All right. Now, our player is going to house the bullets, right? So we check right now to see how he moves. In self.bullets, the 2 braces means that you're making a list. And you can add to the list, you can take away from the list. But right now, we need to be able to, yeah, that'll work here. We need to let the game know that the player has done a function and you need to shoot a bullet. So, what do you say when he hits the space bar? Let's shoot a bullet. So, self bullets append. Don't forget it. I forgot to import our bullets. And we're going to say bullet.bullet for our X. So if we were to just put on here self.rect.x, that's going to let the bullet looks like it's shooting out of the top left corner of the player. That looks a little wonky. So what if we set it to self-rect.x and slide it over 6 pixels? And Y added 2 pixels to it. And what that's going to do for us is, so we're going to scoot it over just a little to the right and drop it down below his head so it actually looks like he's shooting from underneath him. That is our window. All right. So our self.bullets is a list, and we need to be able to go walk over that list. So the way we accomplish that is using our for loop. So we're saying for each bullet that's loaded in your loop, I need you to draw it to the screen. But that's not going to do us a whole lot of good because the bullets are going to sit in one place. We haven't made them move yet. So after we check our keyboard input, we're going to use the same for loop. And just call a bullet update. So you're going to create the bullet, and then the next time the player.update is called, it's going to run its own update, and it's going to should start flying them up the window. How confident you guys think this is going to work?
Everything's gonna run too fast for you to see.
Well, you do have a really kick-ass MacBook, so let's see what we can do.
Well, when you're drawing, I like at every verse, right?
So, wait a minute, what did I did something not so good here. I messed up the bullet class. Oh, once again, that piece of punctuation, and make sure you define it properly. And let's see. What's the next error? Pygame has done.
Your keys in space bar.
No, it's pygame.key.space. Or no? I thought it did that right. K_ space. Pygame key _ space. No, I don't want to look at OpenOffice. Oh, it's because I'm on the wrong window. Well, hot dog. So, the wonderful joys of programming is your debugging. So now we can move around. That's happy. I hit the space button. Local variable bullet reference before assignment. Import bullets. Self-built bullets is.
Is it supposed to be bullet or bullets?
Yeah, it's bullet.py. And the class is bullet. And this is the wonderful joys of troubleshooting. So self bullets is append. So I need you to add a new bullet. Dot bullets. We'll add an X and a Y.
Did you ever initialize where bullet started at?
No, because I was trying to create just an instance inside the list. But right here, did I misspell import? No, because it had crashed. Import bullet. So, here, let's do this. If you hit space, then we'll say B equals bullet, bullet. Okay. We'll create our instance variable, and then just import B.
You need a bracket.
Oh, thank you. I love it when you guys pay attention. Yep. Because I don't need to call bullet again. There we go. So back over here. Same error.
I think your issue is that your bullet
Yeah.
is copying the name of the module.
You're right. Thank you. That was this one. So let's change it to L bullet for local because I'm lazy. Instead of dreaming up a new name, just append something nice. And let's see what we get now. Is it better? Is it worse? Attribute bullet has not attribute window. All right. So in the bullet class, oh, because I called it self window. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Do we have blanky shooty things? I got the yellow light, so I'm almost done with you guys. You survived my torture, and I appreciate you very, very much. Hey, look at that. We have bullets. Yay! We have something fun to do. Now, those bullets will continue to live in the memory because I didn't put any encapsulation in there to blow them out of the list. So if you were to print a statement of how many bullets are actually in my list, even though they're off the screen and out of sight, the computer still knows that they exist. And I've watched a Core i7 come to its knees when I put 300,000 objects into it. So, but hopefully you guys learned a little something today. At least how to paint a red square on the screen, draw dark gray bullets. And the best thing that happened here, believe it or not, was the countless errors. Because if I were to walk up here and show you clean code that worked out of the box, I don't think you guys would have learned anything. I know there's some people that their eyes are glossed over and they're like, oh God, shut up. I am. My time's almost up. But to me, debugging a program is where it's at. That's where you learn everything. If you just copy and paste clean code out of a book, you don't learn anything. Don't be afraid of fat finger. Don't be afraid to break things. Just don't break it in production. But thank you guys for coming. I hope you guys learned something. Yeah, that's what I got for you. Let me get your book back.
Can we go back to the bullet?
Sir?
I missed what the change to the bullet.
So in the draw function, thank you very much, Bo. In the draw function, it's not self.window, it's just window.